Gracias, buenas tardes. Esta es la última sesión estamos hablando con los principales exponentes de la industria. Invito a Manfred Böckmann y a Dominique Marion que me acompañen. Son los primeros en iniciar esta última charla. Hemos tenido diversos tipos de compañías, hemos visto compañías de servicios, fabricantes de herramientas, comercializadores, compañías de IAPG, mixtas estatal como es IPF con capital privado, mixtas como fue Pan American Energy con compañías internacionales. Hemos tenido compañías argentinas, hemos invitado 2 majors de capitales británicos y americanos y no por casualidad invité hoy a Dominique Marion y Manfred Böckmann para venir porque son 2 compañías major también europeas. Entonces estamos segmentando así el mercado y demás, ¿no? Vamos a hacer la charla en inglés, ¿no? Pero Manfred prometió que para la próxima AOG va a tener un castellano fluido, ¿no? Así que la próxima será en castellano. Pero entiende castellano perfecto, pero acaba de llegar al país, así que no le podemos exigir eso. Ambas compañías tienen más de 35 años en Argentina. Han sido las que iniciaron por primera vez una operación de envergadura offshore en el país. Y son también uno de los principales, ambas individualmente, principales productores de gas de Argentina. Así que, bueno, welcome and thank you very much. I would like to start just if you want to present your companies and to the public and see what's your activity here in Argentina. You are very well known, but probably there are things that they don't know yet, so it's going to be good if you talk about your activities in the country.
Okay. Total, as you may know, is an energy company. We are producing oil and gas. We are also in the electricity business recently, and we are also in the renewables at the world level. Today we are I would say, the 4th international company in the world in terms of production, and we are producing close to 3 million barrels per day of oil and gas in the world. We are present in more than 130 countries, and in Argentina. We have a presence in Argentina for more than 40 years. We celebrated last year our 40th anniversary together with Wintershall. We started our history with exploration in Terra del Fuego, and we had very successful discoveries that we then put into production. And today, with these discoveries, we are I think, the #1 producer in Argentina offshore, and we are producing from the most austral position in the world, actually, with our fields of Vega Pleiade. We also have some positions in Neuquén, and we have been present in Neuquén for many years, and we are producing both in conventional and unconventional. And I would say approximately half of our production in Neuquén is coming from unconventional, and we see really the shift, like every other companies, from conventional to unconventional. We are primarily gas dominated, and we are slightly moving to the oil. And Total is also present in Argentina in the field of lubricants. We have a commercialization company, and finally we are also present in the renewables through Total RN, and we are developing some projects in the domain of both the wind and solar energies. So that's and in terms of production. We are producing approximately 200, we are operating 250,000 barrels per day, mostly, as I was saying, mostly gas. And we are the second producer in the country for gas.
Manfred?
Wintershall Dea is actually both a new and an old company, because Wintershall and Dea used to be two separate companies until end of April this year. And we merged on the 1st of April, then that was the day when we had closing. So two German companies with a long history have then finally joined forces to become Wintershall Dea. So, and I'm from I always call myself, I'm from the three-letter company. I'm from DEA, and I joined at the very same day this company, and it has been since then a great experience in Argentina and in Buenos Aires specifically. We share a lot. We share the 40 years experience in the country. But Wintershall Dea is much more than Argentina. We currently produce, since we have merged, close to 600,000 barrels, and we consider ourselves more a gas and oil company than an oil and gas company, because close to 70% of our portfolio really is gas. We are currently active in 12 countries, in Latin America, in Russia, North Africa, Middle East, and of course in the heartlands of Europe, in Norway, Germany, and also Denmark and the Netherlands. So it's a quite widespread portfolio, and Argentina is actually a very important part of that portfolio, with more than 10% of total production coming from this country. We are, like Total, we have been partner from day one, so we are here in the country since more than 40 years as well. Our core production is from Tierra del Fuego, from the CMA complex. But since then, we really have expanded also into the unconventionals, into the Neuquén Basin, where we have currently gas production, mainly from tight gas as well as from unconventionals. Recently, or not recently, a few years ago, we got 2 operated licenses, and we have been very busy over the last 2 or 3 years with our pilot phase, which is now coming to an end. And this marks almost, coincidentally with the merger, an important milestone for this company in the country, because we will now almost migrate from a non-operating partner for many decades into an operating company, and we are very hopeful that we can commence the full field development of our 2 operated licenses in the oil window in the Vaca Muerta as of mid next year. So, and in addition, we have been awarded 2 licenses in the recent offshore bid round, so we are now covering the full value chain really in the country, all the way from old and very profitable gas production in Tierra del Fuego, operated and not operated blocks in Vaca Muerta, and now recently also exploration acreage in the offshore.
Okay, great. Well, yes, Total is one of the main operators of natural gas in Argentina, but you were a non-operator, so you started to make your life more hard, trying to operate your own blocks, but welcome as an operator as well. You mentioned offshore. I asked the same question to ExxonMobil and Shell yesterday. To me, it was a surprise, that they were offered in areas which are more or less considered frontier exploration, that amount of participants and that amount of investment committed in one round, which is close to $800 million. I think that they were awarded blocks for $730 million. Why was that? What are your thoughts? Why that round was so successful? Is something that we don't see, or why that expectation for the blocks?
I think, from Total side, I think we hadn't had any exploration round in Argentina offshore for a while, and it's certainly an underexplored area. And as every explorationist, whenever there's a new area which could be promising, there's always an interest. And what I can say is, first, the organization of the round was very well done, And we had some encouragement in pursuing. And the second thing is that when you are talking about offshore, it's really at the core of what we are doing. In Total, we have a few areas where we are trying to really be at best. One of them being offshore, both deep offshore and conventional offshore. So this is typically the type of targets that we are looking at because we have a lot of experience in other parts of the world, and we see that when the reservoir is there with good quality, we can really make good, profitable projects. The second thing is that part of the blocks are close to our operations in areas that we know well, and there could be some synergies clearly if we make discoveries with the operations we have in the south. It was therefore for us natural to, when these blocks were open, to say, okay, let's try to see what's the potential. So,
Manfred?
I think it needs many different ingredients to be successful in this business. One of them, for me, is the ability to see through cycles, through global market cycles, but also through local cycles. And another, for me, very important ingredient is resilience. And resilience usually comes with a healthy and well-balanced portfolio. And we do have, as Wintershall Dea, such a well-balanced portfolio across all these 12 countries. And we're trying to achieve this not just on a global scale, but also on a local scale. And that includes, of course, also Argentina. We wouldn't be here in Argentina for more than 40 years if we would not have found ways to continuously replenish our portfolio. And this is a key part of our business, and being able to see through the cycles and being able to continuously replenish our portfolio to bring forward and grow our business through new ideas and bring forward new technologies, leverage our knowledge that we have possibly gained in other projects in other countries. And the value proposition for these offshore blocks is quite convincing to us. And it is a natural addition to the position that we already have in the shallow waters in Tierra del Fuego, all the way up to and the Neuquén bases, all the way up to Mendoza. So we now have a well-balanced portfolio also in this country, and that, against the backdrop of the long investment horizon that you need to have in this business, makes a lot of sense for us.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that Argentina is an important part of portfolio of both companies. What are your plans for the future, on the investment plans for the future in those, in your areas, in Argentine portfolio?
Yeah. We have in both Cuenca, where we are, we still have a lot of resources that can be developed. In Tierra del Fuego, we have a project that's called Phoenix that we have been studying, and that for which we are looking at, which could be ready to be launched, but we are looking at the market conditions to valorize the gas. So it's a gas development and technically interesting project, but it's clear that today we have seen a trend in the gas price, and we want to see at which level the price of gas may end up. But clearly, in this part, we have this development and a few satellites that can be developed. What's very important for us is when we launch these developments, the last development we have launched was Vega Pleiade, that the conditions or the agreements that we can have either with the province or with the states, we launch this project based on certain conditions, and it's very important that these conditions are honored and in the future. And for us, it's one key element when we launch project of billions of dollars, that we make sure that the conditions that we decided to take FID are maintained with time. So this is one element. The second element is we want to make sure that the production that we will put on the market, we can have an access to both the internal and external market. We can export if necessary. And this is one key element, because Terra del Fuego is far from the Argentinian market. And when we compare Terra del Fuego with Neuquén, we know that we have an extra transport fee. So to compete, we need to be very cost effective, or we need to be able to find outlets for exportation. So these are elements which are very important in order for us to decide is still to have access to exportation when necessary. Regarding the Vaca Muerta, we have, again, there a very large portfolio of projects. We have launched recently industrial development on Aguada Pichana Este. We are in the process of saturating a plant, but clearly today we see that there's, given the price of gas, there's much more incentive to develop the oil part. So we are shifting to development in oil, and we have various blocks, Rincón La Ceniza, La Escalada, San Roque, and we are really looking into developing these parts. And the gas, we certainly want to maintain our capacities. But again, we will invest depending on the price and the economy of a project. And today, I would say that we see a bit more visibility on the oil. We are certainly concerned with the concept of that we had recently of freezing the oil price, because it's a signal that for us is not very favorable. If we have changes that occur, it's hard to take long-term decisions. But we clearly see that there's a very large potential for the oil, and if the conditions are stable, if we have good visibility in the future, we will be ready to invest in the oil and in the gas also, if, as I say, we have not only access to the local market, but to the export market.
How are your plans? As new operator.
Yes. As I said, we consider ourselves as a gas and oil company, and gas still is our stronghold in this country. And the gas is primarily coming from Tierra del Fuego, but also from Neuquén. However, the interventions that have been introduced since early 2018 until today, mainly in the residential sector, have made it very difficult to have visibility as to what the profitability is really in the long term and even in the midterm for future gas developments. And these effects or these interventions did have a spillover effect into other sectors as well. So there is currently limited visibility as to whether we can plan for a sufficient number of years ahead with regards to additional gas developments in addition and beyond what we already have. And this is really why we have also shifted and put a lot of more focus these days on the oil window in the Vaca Muerta. And this is where in the immediate future, our activities will focus on. And this is Aguada Federal and Bandurria Norte. And these are very promising developments. We have seen very promising results from the pilot drilling and extended well testing. And on that basis, we will hopefully be able to move ahead by mid of next year and then go into full field development. Of course, with a view to expand and leverage that knowledge that we have gained and will gain in order to move further up the learning curve and take this knowledge hopefully also into further other licenses along this trend.
Great. You mentioned, you partly mentioned the problems we have, and you have your company have large portfolios. You need to maintain those portfolios. But one thing that happens usually in the type of company you are is that inside your main portfolios there are competitions of projects. What Argentina needs to have the Argentine projects as competitive as other projects internationally within your company.
I think from our perspective, from a technical point of view, the Argentine project, both Terra del Fuego and Neuquén, are competing clearly with our project. And we can see that intrinsically the profitability can be there. And one of the key issues for us is the stability of the rules in Argentina. As I say, we know the projects are good. But we want to make sure that the rules that apply will be stable. And if it happens, then it's clear that the Argentine project, from our point of view, it's a no-brainer, as we would say. And I think if we could have some signs that shows that indeed we have a stability regulatory fiscal framework that is stable, it will clearly, it's clearly a signal for us, and as I say, the projects will compete favorably.
It's obvious that in an international portfolio, projects will always compete for funds, will always compete for moving up on the merit order. And this is no different for Argentina. And from a subsurface perspective, these projects, regardless whether they are offshore or onshore, whether they are conventional or non-conventional, actually compete very well. They compare very well with our other projects that we have in other countries, being it in Latin America or in Europe or North Africa. And it, to some extent, is really a pity that these projects get discounted because of the risks that we currently see and encounter, the above-ground risk that we currently have here in the country. And we hope that, and this is probably a collective issue that we have to address as an industry, together with other stakeholders in the country, to get back to normal, to make sure that we are not facing day 91 without anything has happened, regarding the oil price freeze. So if we collectively can address these issues and make sure that we find solutions in due course, these projects will will rank very high again on an international portfolio.
Yes, it looks like it's the consensus of all the people who has been coming here to talk about their projects, about long-term conditions, stability, of regulations and law and conditions. So I totally agree with you that we have the assets that you have in Argentina are first-class assets that can compete in geological conditions within in other countries, but we need to put something else. We need to put stable conditions in the long-term basis so as they also compete in the internal rate of returns of the project, really.
Yes, I mean, if I can comment, I think as company we are used to take risks. We take the risk on the geology, we take the risk on the productivity, we take the risk on the financial aspect, we take the risk on the volatility of the prices. But when we have, and this can compare between various fields, but what we are looking for is, as I say, if we can waive the risk on the stability part from fiscal or regulatory risk, then for us it's clearly a plus.
Yeah. I think there's in addition to that stability issue, I think there is also something else that will have to be addressed in the country and these are the routes to monetization. So we need to find ways of how we can monetize the molecules in a consistent and long-term matter, taking into account the seasonality that we have in this country. So it's, in my view, these two factors, the stability of the policy framework and the fiscal regime in combination with finding and identifying and bringing them forward and elaborating on monetization routes that hold for a long time, both for gas and also for oil.
Okay. Well, I see that you are now aiming to oil, after the natural gas markets clear up a little bit, And talking about long-term projects, there is many talks on the country about LNG projects. How do you see, or what possibilities has Argentina to reach other markets, international markets, through LNG? You have experience on that part of the market, and
well, the experience we have is that to be, I guess, a successful project in LNG, you need to have a few conditions. We know how to, on the entire chain of value, we know that we need to have access to cheap gas. That's one element. The second thing is you need to be close to the markets. That's another element. And then the cost of the liquefaction, the cost of transporting your molecules from the fields are, I would say, part of the projects. But for me, the really important things is access to cheap gas and access to the market. I think Argentina has clearly huge potential in terms of resources that can saturate the local market, saturate the neighboring countries, and then clearly there's a potential for exportation outside Argentina. But then one of the issues that Argentina has is its geographical location with respect to the markets. Typically, it could be Europe, it could be Asia, and there are other locations which are a bit closer to this market. So to compete, Argentina needs to have a very cheap access to the gas. And there, we can see that, the cheap gas, it will be hard to have cheap gas from development of, I would say, dry gas, because it will be difficult to go beyond $2 per million BTU. And there, I think one of the issues is how can the associated gas can be a way to lower the cost or the price of your feed gas. So for me, that's one of the issues is what will be the level of associated gas? Will it be sufficient to lower overall the price of the feed gas so that Argentina can compete with other countries? And I think today it's a bit early to say, because I would say we don't have that much calibration on the quantity of associated gas. And I think soon, I think we will have this information in 1 or 2 years. And we know the LNG projects take many years to build. So I would say, well, let's wait and see. But it's a possibility. But again, it competes with many other projects. And from Total side, we have projects in Siberia. We have future projects in Mozambique. So we have lots of projects, and clearly we are looking at Argentina, but it needs to demonstrate that it's feasible.
Indeed. So it's yet to be seen whether there is a compelling investment story around this, because the margin compared to other LNG projects across the Americas is, at least at this point in time, not convincing. So there will have to be some beefing up through associated gas, for example, in order to make this attractive compared to other projects. So this is why I think we need to look at a whole series of different midstream opportunities. Just bank everything on LNG may be a bit short-sighted. And for the long term, I think it will be, for a country like Argentina, a mix of different midstream opportunities in order to safeguard a continuous export route and a consistent way to various markets regionally and internationally.
Okay, yes. And again, long-term conditions.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much
Okay.
for coming here and sharing with us your thoughts and plans, and we'll see round on the exhibition. Eh?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Philippe, muchas gracias.